Hello, I'm Anna Delaney with ISMG. Today we're talking about strengthening cyber resilience, and I'm very pleased to be joined by Brian Spanswick, CIO and CISO of Cohesity, and Tom Gillis, SVP GM of Cisco Security Business Group. Great to see you, gentlemen.
Great to be here.
So cyber attacks, ransomware attacks, they're becoming increasingly a board-level concern. What are you hearing that IT leaders, security leaders are doing about these growing threats?
Yeah, well, I think what you're really seeing, the reason it's getting to the board level, one, it's topic in a lot of the newspapers, you're seeing the headlines. And what's starting to be considered at the board level is, how do they minimize the impact of these types of attacks that are disrupting their ability to generate business outcomes? And so it's different than just talking about how do you protect your assets, it's really talking about the sustainability of the organization. That's why it's becoming at the board level.
Yeah, and the ability to disrupt is, I think, self-evident, right? And I think there are attackers whose motivation are financial. There are nation-state attackers who are looking simply to disrupt, and that's a significant concern. I think a growing concern in this geopolitical environment.
But what are you hearing about security leaders and their approach to addressing these threats?
Yeah, I think timeliness is the most important thing. So a combination of automation and AI tools are going to allow us to create more automated responses than were ever before possible, and even than were possible even 6 months ago. So the industry is going through an explosive period of change. Some of the work that we've been doing with Cohesity, I think, is a perfect example of what we can do to automate the response and recovery in the event, the kind of inevitable event that attack occurs.
Yeah, I think that's the two things that have really changed over the last 5 years, is that there's really been a focus on how do we minimize the impact of these attacks, not just try to stop them. The trying to stop them will continue to do, but it's really become an arms race with the attackers. Minimizing the impact, if they're able to get through the defenses, I think is key. And what Tom's saying is spot on. It's all about time. How quickly you can recover your core processes, minimizing the disruption. How quickly you can identify and respond to the attack is what really is where you're seeing organizations invest.
So it's all part of resilience. What are you seeing security leaders do to prioritize building in that resilience into their security strategies?
Yeah, well, I think it's changing their strategy. I think their strategy is becoming more balanced. That they're making investments as much as in resiliency as they are in trying to stop or create a wall to keep the attackers out.
And if we get our head around the idea that we want to focus on resilience and accept that an attack is going to come, it opens up some super interesting possibilities that we've been working on together. If you look at most of these attack profiles, attackers make several moves in the infrastructure that are detectable, but at a very, very low fidelity detection, meaning a very high false positive rate. So attackers quite deliberately hide in the noise of legitimate behavior. So it's not practical to block or disrupt a connection or movement at that early stage of the attack. But using some of the automation techniques that we've been developing together, you can take a non-invasive passive response, such as trigger a snapshot, that can allow the response to move much earlier in the attack chain and therefore minimize potential damage, dramatically enhance security resilience, dramatically, right? It's not an incremental change.
Yeah, you're packaging the ability to rapidly recover or restore from the disruption as close to the disruption as possible. So that really does change the game, especially in today's world where the attackers are exploiting some vulnerabilities within hours of that vulnerability being announced as opposed to days. How do you build a defense against that? Really, your best defense is that quick response and recover.
Let's walk through a real scenario that we've worked on together.
Yeah.
So imagine an email comes into one of your employees, and there's just something funny about that email. The sender doesn't accept mail in return. Other than that, it looks totally clean. 5% probability it's malicious. The email has a link, the user clicks on that link, it goes to a photo sharing site, looks totally clean, we don't see any malware, except it's new, we've never seen it before. 7% probability it's malicious. Then all of a sudden on that machine, we see PowerShell spawn a new process we've never seen before. It's an unknown process. We talk to the EDR running on the machine, Windows Defender says, nope, I've never seen it before, it's new. At that point in time, there's only a 10% probability that this is malicious. When that connection goes to make, when that process goes to make a connection on the network, we, Cisco, we're able to see this in real time because we're in the network. So we can see, oh, funny looking process on funny looking machine. wants to connect to this server, which is a customer database. At a 10% probability of being malicious, there's no way we're going to block that connection. In fact, if we sent that alert to your SOC, what are they going to do?
Oh yeah, they're going to
turn it off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because 90% of the time it's wrong. But a snapshot with Cohesity, computationally, it's almost free. So what we do is we say, let's allow the connection, but let's take a copy of it, trigger snapshot, and we mark it. We don't make an alert, we don't bug anybody, but then we watch. And if it turns out, that was just a Windows update, that's why it was a new process. Well, we took a snapshot, we throw it away. Again, with Cohesity, that's almost no consequence. But if it turns out that's a ransomware attack, we just automated the recovery process with, to use storage parlance, an RPO recovery point of 0. Meaning, dear customer, I'm so sorry to inform you, you had a ransomware infection. Here's the good news, you didn't get sick. It's like a vaccine for ransomware, right? You may have an infection, but it's not going to have impact on your business operations. That is security resilience.
It's super exciting, right? You've got the capability to recover in the snapshot that you've got from Cohesity, but it's triggered and it's identified quickly through the insights and the automation through the Cisco solution. It's a really, really powerful combination.
And as we bring Cisco and Splunk together, we're going to flow that same functionality up into the Splunk console. And I think this is going to become part of the playbook of every security operations center everywhere, thanks to Cohesity.
Yeah.
Where are the most significant gaps in resilience plans right now, what you're seeing?
Well, I think you alluded to this earlier. I will tell you, I talk to customers all the time. And what we're seeing is the speed at which attackers are responding to new vulnerabilities. So when vulnerability is announced, within hours, we see it being exploited. And that's a huge problem because no matter what you do, patching an application, it takes time. You don't just patch it, you don't just throw new code into a running application and hope it works. It takes days, sometimes even weeks, and sometimes you can't patch because you don't even control the app. It's a third-party piece, et cetera. So having these automated type responses that can mitigate the damage in that window of exposed vulnerability, I think is really, really important.
And I think the Verizon report said that it takes 55 days for us to patch.
Yeah, I mean, does anyone remember Log4j, right? Like, that was going on for months, right? And so that creates a significant kind of scary threat for the security community. The flip side is with automation, we have the ability to create these graduated response. We could turn on a packet capture, trigger that snapshot, and we can follow these attackers in a way that we can back them out without having any business impact. And that's magical.
And that helps you action that recovery.
Yes.
The other gap that I see in a lot of the security organizations that I speak to, their recovery capabilities are really based off of old ideas around disaster recovery. So they've got legacy backups that would be very similar to like you backing up your iPhotos. Mm-hmm. But there you're making sure that you don't lose the data, but you haven't really considered what it's going to take for you to be able to recover those core systems. So that capability combined with the ability to action that quickly against an attack is really the gap that needs to be bridged.
Mm-hmm. Talk more about how you're helping your own customers with their cyber resilience plans.
So at Cisco, we're focusing on that automated response. And one of the things that we just introduced is we call it Cisco Hypershield, where we have the ability to put a little compensating control in front of that vulnerability in a highly automated fashion. So it could be within minutes of a vulnerability being announced, we can put a little protection. It doesn't alleviate the need for patching, but it automates that response. And it's very consistent with the work we've done together of automating the snapshot, right? So we plug the hole, take a snapshot, and now if an attacker got through, we can contain the damage and instead minimize or eliminate business impact. And
from a recovery perspective, our solution has the ability to recover quickly at scale based on the way that the product is architected. So you don't have to go through a multiple step of hydrating the data and that would add time to your recovery time objective. It really enables recovering large business processes at scale.
Yeah, that's one of the things that you guys do particularly well in our view. We're not storage people, but your ability to define these protection groups so that it's not only the recovery point, but the recovery time.
That's right.
Right? Of like, hey, when I trigger that snapshot, I know the Cohesity has figured out all the stuff that has to be captured so that I can restore back and make the thing run. And taken together, this is a chocolate and peanut butter situation, right? It's a good combo.
and very timely. This is exciting
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. The imperative is high.
Yeah. Well, it's been very good speaking with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Brian, Tom,
Thank you.
great pleasure.
Yeah, enjoyed it.
Yep.
And thanks so much for watching. For IS&G, I'm Anna Delaney.